Hi, I'm Teresa Rodden, and I am the author of Explore, the 28-Day Journal. And I'm also a coach, and I'm an advocate for women to break free from limiting beliefs, half-truths, and outright lies that society has put upon them, maybe their families put upon them, their culture has put upon them, and I really want to help women kind of return to self. And that's why I decided to create this journal to help you explore your relationship with alcohol, but really it's about exploring yourself. Make sense? Maybe not, because this is not a traditional practice. Most of the time when we have a problem with our drinking, we are told that we are supposed to be a certain way, that we're supposed to do a certain thing, and that we have this identity now for the rest of our lives. And I want to help shatter that myth. So in 28 Day, in the journal, at the beginning of it, there is 3 different segments. Now, the first segment is the introduction, and it's really about how being sober is way different than anything you've ever been taught. So traditionally, in our culture today, what people believe sober is abstinence. So once you start not drinking, then your sobriety date starts. But what I have found through exploring and digging deep is that that's not true at all. Sobriety has nothing to do with abstinence. Although abstinence can contribute to sobriety, it's not what the true sense, the origination of sober is. Sober is really having a clear mind. And I've added in Holy Sober that you have an open heart. That helps you pivot when things get kind of crazy. That helps you when you stumble, that you don't fall. Instead, you just stumble and stand back up and move forward. It also is living life with defined intentions. So that's something that I've noticed with the hundreds of women I've worked with over the years, and I've been doing this for a long time, is that we often don't have anything we're moving towards, nothing that we're getting excited about that gets us jumping out of bed and where we're really experiencing life and expressing who we are to the core. It comes down to really start practicing being who it is you want to be. What would that non-drinker or that controlled modified drinker, what would that look like? What would you be doing different? What is your inspiration for wanting that kind of a lifestyle? Because if you're just wanting to not drink because you shouldn't, that's probably why you're having a problem sticking to your resolve. So I really want you to think about, what it is, who it is that you want to be, and what would that person be doing every day. And the conscious choices, that segment of the journal will explain that in more depth, and it actually points to a study I found 10 years later that supported why that practice actually helped me break that pattern. And then the third segment of the beginning of the book of Explore 28-Day Journal is about journaling. A lot of us, and again, this happens with many of the women I work with on my personal coaching, is when I ask them if they consider journaling, because journaling really helps you get to the soul of who you are. And not necessarily on a computer, although that's not horrible. But what I have found is that putting pen to paper actually invites you to go into like a different dimension almost, to where you have access to information that's not at the surface level that you normally rely on to get through your days. So that's why I created a paper journal, that pen to paper, and creating that safe space for you, to explore and get curious and write the things you shouldn't write. That's where you find your freedom. That's where you find your voice. That's where you find your truth. And I also, I share how I set up spaces that, creating the candle, creating the time, setting a timer. If you're, worried that you can't get everything out that you want to write, set a timer and say, you know, I'm only going to write for 5 minutes this morning. I only have time. Because what I don't want you to do is go into your journaling feeling like it's something you have to do. Journaling should be something that you look forward to, that I wonder what will develop on the pages today. And so I share in that segment step by step of how to create that safe space. Because you're going to be invited to create an intention for your 28 days. I think I already spoke about the importance of having an intention, having something you're looking forward to, having something that's pulling you forward. So when I first got sober back in 2003, I kept my eye on the prize of who it was that I wanted to become. What is it that I wanted to do, and how did I want to live my life? I mean, I've really honestly received this gift that I'm sober, I'm free. I am absolutely free. And I think that's the difference. And I was even in the traditional program for the first 6 to 9 months, 6 months hardcore. And then I started backing away from it the last 3 months. And the last meeting I attended as a member, I was about 9 months. Now, I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying it wasn't for me. And I recognized that immediately. And I'm so grateful that I had that connection to self, that I developed that connection to self, that I knew what was going to support me to be healthy and what could hurt me. And that was something critical, because I know that if I would have stayed in that environment, I would have ended up getting drunk again. I just knew it. I was feeling frustrated and aggravated. And so I did an incredibly daring thing, and I walked away from the only thing I knew and the only thing that people knew at the time that would keep you sober. But I found my way. And so I want you to get there too, because I think that's freedom. At the beginning of the segment, where you're going to set your intention, is a quote by Lao Tzu. And I actually looked up how you pronounce that, and it's just Tzu, like Shih Tzu. So it's kind of funny. Side note. At the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are, and you know what you want. This is ancient wisdom here, right? And we don't need somebody to be telling us what we need to do and what we don't need to do. We need to develop that trust within ourselves so we can show up and be exactly who it is that we want to be, and do what we want to do, and do what we're called to do. So your very first point is, what is your intention during these 28 days? So that doesn't, now we're not thinking in the mindset of addiction and alcoholism and substance use. We're not thinking, I'm not going to drink. We're thinking, what is the intention? What is it that you want to accomplish? Or, you know, what do you want to believe about yourself? What kind of a relationship do you want to develop with yourself or with alcohol in the next 28 days? Think in those lines. And so, and pause it when you need to. My greatest challenge may be, so I want you to think about what might get in your way. Like, I might get bored of this. It feels redundant. I get that, but follow it through. Make the commitment to yourself right now to follow through. You're going to do this every single day. And then what is your plan to overcome that challenge? So if you do get bored, or if you get busy, what is your plan? Are you going to wake up earlier? Are you going to sneak on during lunch, which I wouldn't really recommend if you don't really have that space to create that, if you don't have the ability to create that safe space for you to go deep. So what is your plan to overcome any challenge, or the challenge that you know might get in the way? What is your plan to overcome that? Okay, so let's take a deep breath. We're coming to day one. Day one, here we come. And of course, I have a quote, because I love quotes. I think quotes anchor us, and you'll have one every day that'll leave you after the journal entry. So, but today's quote to start your journaling is, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Again, that's connecting to who you are, not who you were told you're supposed to be, not who society thinks you should be, but who you are. Okay, that's Aristotle, in case you want to look it up. So at the beginning, I want you to see this in the journal here. See, an opportunity to explore my relationship with alcohol, but I crossed it out and put me, because that's really the truth of it. I'm so excited for you. Okay, so day 1. Today I make a conscious choice to, and this is where it's important that you read that segment about making a conscious choice, but I want you to go with the flow right now. What is your conscious choice today? Because this is just for today. We're not looking at 28 days from now, just today. Today I make a conscious choice to, go ahead and write down. I choose this because. So what made you choose that thing? It's important that we're aware of what leads us to our choices. How this supports my 28-day intention is, now you may not know, I want you to do a little bit of self-trust here. You may not know exactly why you're choosing this or how it supports your 28 days, but I want you to trust that whatever came up for you of what your choice is today, your conscious choice, the choice that you're choosing, what you're making, that it is going to support your 28-day intention, because you've already set your intention back here, right? So it's already in your subconscious. So it's going to lead you. You just need to surrender to it. Now that is, every day will start off like that. And then a little holy sober insight. So this may be an excerpt of my book, or it may just be a thought that I have, or it may be information that I've developed, that I've identified along the way. So a little holy sober insight. I didn't know much about alcoholism growing up, or even when I first decided I wanted to make a change in my relationship with alcohol. I was subjected to what everybody else believed and preached. One thing is for sure, there's no shortage of preachers on the topic of alcoholism. Now, I know alcoholism is kind of a taboo word these days. We're really trying to make a movement to end the stigma, and there's a strong belief that changing the verbiage, changing the language will contribute to that. But the truth of the matter is alcoholism is still the main word that's used out there in society today. So I'm going to use clear language and get to the root of what I'm talking about. So if that offends you, I apologize, but I just want clear and clean communication during this process. So as I promised, you don't have to worry about Dear Diary, I don't know what I'm writing about. So I provide you with a writing prompt, and it comes from the actual Holy Sober Insight. It's influenced by that. And so your writing prompt today, and I'm not gonna have time to sit on here while you do this, but I want you to write down the prompt so you can finish it at your convenience. The writing prompt is, what I know about alcoholism or problem drinking is, and it's important for you to understand what it is that you believe about it. Because again, what oppresses us is what we believe. And so if we can untie that knot, and if we can get to the truth of what we believe and not instead of what we've been influenced by, it's a lot easier for us to break free. It's a lot easier for us to feel free and have peace in our life. So, as I said, there is always a closing quote that you get to carry with you every single day. And this one is, it is what we think we know already that often prevents us from learning. Claude Bernard. And that's it. That's a typical day looks like, but only some days it's around alcohol. At the beginning of the 28 days, it's got a lot of questions that are thought-provoking around alcohol, and there's a lot of research that suggests open-ended questions. Those writing prompts are so valuable for us to develop our own thinking, our own reasoning around challenges and problems that we face. So it's my hope that you'll commit to showing up every day for the next 28 days, and you don't have to count the days that you're not drinking, or get anxious because you can't drink, or it's not about that. It's really, I want you to do some self-love, introspection, and get clear about what it is that you want in life.